The gleaming spires of the Interspecies Military Academy stood proud against the orange sky of Proxima 7, Earth's most ambitious outpost in the galactic community. Senior Cadet June Kim wiped sweat from her brow as she adjusted her pack's straps. The Academy's gravity generators were calibrated to 1.3 times Earth normal, comfortable for humans but exhausting for many alien species. "They're watching us again," muttered Day, June's stocky roommate with a permanent half-smile. He nodded toward a cluster of tall, willowy Alturians observing from the barracks windows. June shrugged. "Let them watch. Maybe they'll learn something." The 4 human cadets, June, Day, Hyun, and Jin, had grown used to the stairs. Humans were the newest members of the Galactic Cooperative, and their reputation preceded them. Deathworlders, the other species called them, creatures born on a planet so hostile that it produced beings of unusual strength and resilience. "Survival training in the Rakala forest," Jin groaned, checking his equipment one last time. "Why couldn't we get desert training instead?" His dark eyes scanned the tree line where the infamous forest began, a twisted maze of purple-leafed giants and carnivorous undergrowth. "Because Commander Elzix hates us," Hyun replied, adjusting her medkit. The shortest of the group, Hyun, compensated with fierce intelligence and unmatched marksmanship. Their assignment was simple: 5 days in the Rakala, navigating to 3 checkpoints using only basic equipment. No powered weapons, no communicators, just survival tools and training. Standard procedure for 4th-year cadets. The forest swallowed them within minutes. Massive trees stretched hundreds of meters upward, their canopies blocking most sunlight. Bioluminescent fungi provided eerie blue illumination along the forest floor. The air smelled of sweet decay and something else, something metallic. "Does anyone else smell that?" June asked, pausing to examine a patch of disturbed soil. Jin crouched beside her. "Electroplasma residue. Something powered came through here. Recently. Nothing big lives in this sector," Day said, unfolding his terrain mapper, "and no other training squads should be here." They continued deeper, following the strange energy trace. The readings grew stronger near a waterfall cascading down moss-covered rocks. June signaled for silence, pointing to an unnatural shimmer behind the falling water. "Holographic concealment," Hyun whispered, her eyes widening. "Military grade. Moving." With practiced stealth, they circled behind the waterfall, discovering a narrow passage. The tunnel led to a small clearing containing a metallic object no larger than a supply crate. Its surface pulsed with soft green light, surrounded by a network of spindly antennae. Jin's handheld scanner whirred quietly. "It's some kind of surveillance hub. Not Academy tech, not like anything in our databases." June carefully examined the device without touching it. "Those markings, they're not from any cooperative species I recognize." "We should report this," Hyun said, already turning back toward the tunnel. "They dismissed our findings about the crashed scout ship last semester," Day countered. "Said we were inventing threats to showcase human ingenuity." June's face hardened at the memory. Commander Elzix had made it clear that human paranoia wasn't welcome. "We need evidence this time. Jin, can you capture the signal pattern?" As Jin worked, a soft clicking sound froze them all in place. The undergrowth 20 meters away parted, revealing a floating maintenance droid, except it wasn't Academy standard. Its body was smoother, with more articulation points, and its optical sensors glowed red instead of blue. "Don't move," June whispered. "It might not have combat protocols." The droid hovered silently, scanning the clearing. Then it emitted a shrill alarm tone. The surveillance hub suddenly retracted its antennae and began to pulse rapidly. "It's purging data," Jin shouted. "And probably signaling others." "Day, Jin, secure that hub," June commanded. "Hyun, with me." She sprinted toward the droid, pulling a vibro knife from her boot, the only weapon they were allowed for wilderness training. The droid shot upward, but June was faster. She leapt from a fallen log, catching one of the droid's lower stabilizers. The machine whirred angrily, extending previously hidden appendages with sharp, needle-like tips. Hyun grabbed a handful of phosphorescent moss and flung it at the droid's sensors, temporarily blinding it. June drove her knife into what looked like a control junction. The droid spasmed, its anti-grav unit failing. Both cadet and machine crashed to the forest floor. Meanwhile, Jin had pried open the hub's access panel, working furiously to prevent the data purge, while Day stood guard. "Got it," Jin called triumphantly, holding up a small crystal matrix. "Full data core." The fallen droid at June's feet suddenly projected a holographic image, a massive fleet of ships unlike any human or cooperative design. The projection lasted only seconds before the droid went completely dark. "Did everyone see that?" June asked, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Hyun nodded grimly. "Those weren't trading vessels." "This changes our mission," June decided. "We take both devices back to the Academy. Even Elzics can't ignore physical evidence." As they carefully packed the disabled technology, none of them noticed the tiny scout drone watching from the canopy above, transmitting everything to a cloaked ship beyond Proxima 7's atmosphere, a vanguard of the Rexian armada that had been studying the Academy for months, assessing the threat potential of each species. The drone's artificial intelligence tagged the 4 humans as priority subjects. Their speed, strength, and problem-solving abilities registered far beyond expected parameters for untrained specimens. This data would soon reach Vrexian Command, where a fateful misunderstanding was about to begin. The sky turned from orange to blood red as the Vrexian ships broke through Proxima 7's atmosphere. Massive war vessels, shaped like obsidian arrowheads with pulsing crimson energy cores, descended through clouds that scattered before their powerful shields. At the Academy's central plaza, alarms blared. Cadets from 17 species ran in, controlled chaos while instructors shouted orders. Commander Elzics's voice boomed over the emergency system. "This is not a drill. All personnel proceed to evacuation points. I repeat, this is not a drill." Deep in the Rakala forest, June and her team remained oblivious to the invasion. They had spent the night analyzing their discovery, taking turns on watch. Dawn broke, with an unusual crimson light filtering through the canopy. "Something's wrong," Day said, scanning the sky through gaps in the trees. "That's not normal sunrise coloration." Jin's equipment suddenly picked up a flood of emergency signals. His face paled as he decoded them. "The Academy is under attack. Some species called the Vrexians. They're ordering complete evacuation." "We need to get back," June decided immediately, packing their gear. Hyun pointed to her terrain mapper. "The main paths will be watched if this is a real invasion. We should cut through the western ridge." They moved quickly through the undergrowth, the alien surveillance tech secured in their packs. The forest seemed different now, quieter, as if the native creatures sensed the danger above. 3 hours into their trek, Hyun suddenly raised her hand for silence. Ahead, something metallic glinted between the trees. The team dropped to the ground, crawling forward through dense purple ferns. In a small clearing stood 5 figures unlike anything in their xenobiology textbooks, bipedal but hunched, with mottled grey-green skin covered in chitinous plates. Their heads were elongated with 4 glowing yellow eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Each carried what was unmistakably a weapon, sleek rifles that hummed with energy. "Vrexian scouts," Jin whispered, his scanner giving minimal readings. "Their armor must have stealth capabilities." "They're between us and the Academy," Day noted grimly. June studied the aliens' movements. They operated with military precision, 2 scanning the perimeter, while 3 examined something on a hovering holographic display. "We can't go around," June decided. "That ridge is the only way back that avoids the main paths. We need to disable them." "With what?" Hyun asked. 4 vibro knives against energy weapons?" June's eyes gleamed with determination. "With what humans do best, adapting." They retreated to plan. Minutes later, the Vrexian scouts detected movement to their east, a human figure darting between trees. 3 scouts immediately pursued, leaving 2 at their position. Jin, playing bait, led the pursuers on a winding chase through the forest's densest sections. His smaller frame slipped through gaps the bulkier Vrexians struggled with. Growing up in Earth's varied terrains made this kind of evasion second nature. Meanwhile, Hyun positioned herself in a tree overlooking the clearing. From her pack, she pulled their emergency flare, authorized only for life-threatening situations. This certainly qualified. The remaining Vrexians never saw the flare coming. It struck directly between them, exploding in blinding light calibrated for human retinas, but overwhelming to the Vrexians' more sensitive eyes. The aliens staggered, clutching at their faceplates. June and Day sprang from opposite directions. Day tackled the larger scout, using his stocky build and earthborn muscles, developed under higher gravity than the Vrexians evolved in, to drive the alien to the ground. June moved like water, sliding beneath the second scout's wild shot and slicing through its weapon's power conduit with her vibro knife. The disabled weapon sparked and died. The disarmed Vrexian hissed something in its native tongue. Their translation tech couldn't decipher it, but the tone suggested surprise more than fear. Across the forest, Jin had reached his destination, a small clearing with a waterfall similar to their previous discovery. He ducked behind the cascade just as energy bolts sizzled past, evaporating water into steam. The pursuing Vrexians approached cautiously, communicating through clicks and hisses. They didn't notice the thin vines stretching across the clearing's entrance, vines that Jin had repositioned from the carnivorous rapatha plants that populated the forest floor. The first scout triggered the trap. Vines whipped upward, wrapping around armored limbs with surprising strength. The rapatha plants sensed prey, releasing paralyzing toxins that seeped through even the advanced armor at joint seams. The second scout fired wildly, destroying plants but missing Jin entirely. The third scout backed away, raising a communication device to its faceplate. Back at the clearing, June and Day had subdued their opponents using a combination of academy, combat training, and pure human tenacity. The Vrexians' strength matched theirs, but the aliens seemed genuinely shocked by the humans' endurance and pain tolerance. "Secure them," June ordered, binding the scouts with cord from their packs. One of the Vrexians spoke, its voice processed through a translator on its armor. "You fight unusually well for younglings." June froze. "You can speak our language? We study all potential threats." Your kind was miscategorized. Before June could question further, their comm unit crackled. Jin's voice came through. "I've got 3 more contained, but one's calling for backup. We need to move." They gathered their prisoners and equipment, moving quickly toward the rendezvous point Jin had specified. What none of them realized was that every move they made was being recorded by microscopic drones embedded in the Vrexian scouts' armor, standard procedure for all Vrexian military operations. Aboard the Vrexian command ship hovering above the academy, Fleet Commander Cravash watched the footage with growing concern. The feed showed human cadets, mere students, neutralizing trained Vrexian scouts with primitive tools and environmental adaptation. "These readings cannot be accurate," Cravash hissed to his science officer. "Their physical capabilities exceed our intelligence estimates by 40%. "The data is verified, Commander," the science officer replied. "And note, they appear to be using training equipment, not military gear." On screen, June led her team through a ravine, prisoners in tow, navigating treacherous terrain with ease that astonished the watching Vrexian officers. Cravash's upper eyes narrowed. "If these are their untrained young, what are their warriors capable of?" The question hung in the air as the invasion force, originally confident in their superior numbers and technology, began to reassess the threat posed by the planet's newest species, the Deathworlders from Earth. Aboard the Vrexian flagship Eternal Dominance, Commander Cravash's war room buzzed with nervous energy. Officers gathered around holographic displays, showing footage of the human cadets neutralizing elite scouts. The images looped repeatedly while analysts pointed at details most species would miss: the casual strength, the environmental adaptability, the tactical thinking that seemed instinctual rather than trained. "Play the translation again," Cravash ordered, his 4 eyes fixed on the central display where June and her team communicated during their ambush. A technician activated the audio. The human's words filtered through Vrexian translation matrices. "Remember, this is just a training exercise," June had said while preparing their trap. The senior language officer, an ex-Vrul, tapped his clawed fingers against the console. "We've cross-referenced their educational databases. The term they use, training exercise, is categorized under casual recreation in their developmental activities. Casual recreation? Kravash's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. You're telling me these humans disabled our scouts while engaging in play? The science officer stepped forward, nervously adjusting his ceremonial collar. Commander, our preliminary analysis suggests human physiology evolved under conditions far more extreme than we anticipated. Their muscle density is triple the galactic average. Their pain threshold exceeds even Dorlaxian warriors, and their atmospheric adaptability— Get to the point, Kravash snapped. These are students, sir. Adolescents by their biological standards. If their untrained young can neutralize our scouts while engaged in recreational activities, then their adult warriors would be— The science officer couldn't finish the sentence. An uncomfortable silence filled the war room until a tactical officer spoke up. The human cadets have reunited with others. They're establishing some kind of base in the eastern forest sector, the sea. Display shifted to show June's team meeting with 6 other human cadets who had also been caught in the wilderness during the invasion. They had found shelter in a cave system beneath a waterfall, hidden from orbital sensors by natural mineral deposits. Increase surveillance. I want to know exactly what we're facing, Kravash ordered. Deep in the Rakala forest, June assessed their situation. 10 human cadets total had made it to the cave hideout, herself, Dai, Hyun, Jin, plus 6 others who had been on separate training exercises. They had basic survival gear, 3 captured Rexian weapons, and most importantly, the alien surveillance equipment they'd discovered before the invasion. The Academy evacuation was only partial, said Kwan, a tall, lanky engineering cadet with quick hands and quicker thinking. At least 40 cadets and staff are still trapped inside the main building. The Vrexians have established a perimeter. What about our captured scouts? Asked Tay, the oldest of their group and a specialist in xenobiology. June glanced toward the back of the cave where their 3 prisoners sat bound but unharmed. They haven't said much. Their translation tech works, but they seem surprised by everything we do. Jin was working on the captured surveillance hub, connecting it to his academy datapad. I think I can use this to tap into their communication. Network, give me an hour. The cave felt cramped but secure. They had water from the waterfall, ration packs from their survival kits, and a defensible position. June organized them into shifts, some resting, others standing guard or working on equipment. We need to understand what we're dealing with, she told the group. The Vrexians invaded without warning or declaration. That means this isn't a standard cooperative conflict. They're operating outside galactic law. Why here? Asked Sora, a petite but fierce combat instructor trainee. The Academy isn't a strategic military target. Day looked up from where he was cleaning his vibro knife. Unless they're specifically targeting multi-species cooperation, break us apart before we become too unified. An hour later, Jin called everyone over to his workstation. I've cracked their basic communication protocols. It's mostly encrypted, but I'm getting fragments. His face looked troubled. They're really focused on us, humans specifically. What do you mean? June asked. Look at this. Jin projected a captured Vrexian data stream. Though mostly incomprehensible symbols, certain image packets showed humans, academy training sessions, Earth cultural broadcasts, and most disturbingly, footage of their recent encounters with the scouts. They've been studying us, Hyun said, quietly. But why so interested in cadets? We're not even full soldiers yet. Jin's fingers flew across his modified interface. Wait, there's something weird in their translation matrix. When they refer to our training exercises, they're categorizing them as recreational activities? Like games? Tay frowned. That's a dangerous mistranslation. If they think our basic training is how humans play, the implications hit everyone simultaneously. Day started laughing, a nervous sound that echoed off the cave walls. They think we were just messing around when we took down their scouts. We need to use this, June decided. If they're overestimating us, we can turn that into an advantage. Back on the Eternal Dominance, Kravash reviewed the latest intelligence. The situation had become more concerning by the hour. The human cadets had established what appeared to be a primitive command center and were somehow tapping into Vrexian communications. a feat that should have been impossible with their level of technology. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. The intelligence officer flicked through data screens. "Unknown, Commander, but we've intercepted their communications. They refer to their current activities as survival training exercises and discuss practical application of wilderness techniques." Nexvral, the language officer, looked increasingly uncomfortable. "Commander, I believe they are treating this entire conflict as an educational opportunity, a learning game." Kravash's upper eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of extreme stress in Vrexian physiology. "You mean to tell me that being hunted by the most powerful armada in the sector is a teaching moment for them?" "Yes, Commander, and they appear to be enjoying the challenge." On the display, footage showed June instructing the other cadets on how to modify their equipment to detect Vrexian patrol patterns. Her expression was focused, but there was an unmistakable energy in her movements, what humans might call excitement or enthusiasm. The tactical officer cleared his throat nervously. "Sir, we've lost contact with another patrol, near the human position. Same pattern. They were disabled using only the natural environment and primitive tools." Kravash stood abruptly, his tall frame casting a shadow across the war table. "If human children treat war as a game, then what do their warriors consider actual combat? What kind of species have we encountered?" The room fell silent as the footage continued playing. On screen, June smiled as she demonstrated how to convert a standard-issue cadet backpack into a trap capable of incapacitating a Vrexian soldier. "Twice her size. Continue observation," Kravash finally ordered, "and prepare a full species reassessment. I want to know exactly what these Deathworlders are capable of when they're actually trying." None of the Vrexians noticed the small discrepancy in their translation matrix, where training should have connected to preparation for military service. It instead linked to recreational activity for amusement. A simple error that was rapidly reshaping the course of the invasion. 3 days into the Vrexian invasion, the forest surrounding the academy had become a nightmare for alien patrols. What should have been routine security sweeps turned into humiliating defeats at the hands of beings half their size, who seemed to melt into the environment at will. June crouched on a moss-covered branch 30 meters above the forest floor, watching a Vrexian patrol pass below. Their once confident movements had grown hesitant, weapons constantly raised, heads swiveling at every sound. She smiled. Fear was working in their favor. Her comm unit vibrated silently against her wrist. Jin's voice came through, barely above a whisper. "Strike team in position. Command vessel still hovering over the western ridge. Proceed as planned," June replied. "Radio silence until Phase 2. The plan was their most ambitious yet. After days of picking off patrols and gathering equipment, they had identified a key weakness. The Vrexian command shuttle that coordinated ground operations made regular low-altitude passes over the forest, presumably scanning for their position. June slipped down from her perch, moving soundlessly through the canopy, using climbing techniques that her instructors had called unnecessarily reckless during training. Now those same techniques kept her alive as she rendezvoused with Day and Hyun at their designated meeting point. "Everything ready?" she asked. Day patted his pack, which contained their secret weapon, a modified atmospheric analyzer from the Academy's science lab, reprogrammed by Quan to emit a concentrated burst of electromagnetic interference. "Ready to make some new friends?" he confirmed with a grin. Hyun checked her stolen Vrexian communicator. "Jin's team reports the command shuttle is beginning its sweep. We have 12 minutes. They moved quickly to the clearing they had selected, a small break in the canopy that would give them just enough visibility to the sky above. The clearing wasn't natural. They had created it the previous night by carefully relocating several flexible young trees, bending them back and securing them with vines. "Remember," June said as they took positions, "timing has to be perfect." Above them, the sleek shape of the Vrexian command shuttle appeared, its silver-gray hull gleaming against the purple sky. Unlike the massive warships, this vessel was built for atmosphere, streamlined and agile with scanning arrays extending from its underside like metallic tentacles. "Now, Day," June commanded. Day activated the modified analyzer. It emitted no visible signal, but the effect on the shuttle was immediate. The scanning arrays spasmed, retracting and extending randomly as their control systems were flooded with contradictory data. Simultaneously, Jin's team on the opposite side of the clearing activated their own device, a communication jammer improvised from Academy equipment and salvaged Vrexian tech. The shuttle lurched in the air, dropping several meters before stabilizing. Its engines whined as automatic systems fought to compensate for the unexpected interference. Phase 2, June ordered. Hyun raised the stolen communicator and activated it, broadcasting on the Vrexian emergency channel. Her voice calm and clear. "Attention, Vrexian vessel. Lower your altitude immediately or face destruction." The shuttle hovered uncertainly. Then June gave the next signal. The bent trees they had positioned were released simultaneously, snapping upward with tremendous force. Each tree carried a payload, cleverly arranged reflective panels salvaged from emergency blankets in their survival kits. As the trees whipped upward, the panels caught the sunlight in precise angles, creating the illusion of energy weapons powering up from multiple positions. Through the communicator, they heard panicked Vrexian voices. "Ambush! Energy signatures detected! Evasive maneuvers!" The shuttle pilot attempted to pull away, but Day increased power to his device. The electromagnetic interference intensified, targeting the shuttle's navigation system specifically. The vessel wobbled dangerously. "Final warning," Hyun transmitted. "Land and surrender or be destroyed." What happened next exceeded their expectations. The shuttle didn't just land, it executed an emergency landing protocol, settling roughly in the clearing. Its hatches opened, and 5 Vrexians emerged with arms raised in the universal gesture of surrender. "We submit to human authority," the lead Vrexian announced through its translator. "Please inform your command structure that we seek terms." The cadets exchanged shocked glances. The plan had been to capture communication equipment, not an entire shuttle crew. Aboard the Eternal Dominance, Commander Cravash stared in disbelief at the emergency transmission. "The ground command shuttle has been captured," he repeated, his voice dangerously quiet. "Yes, Commander," his communications officer confirmed nervously. "They report being targeted by multiple energy weapons of unknown design. The human forces disabled their systems from concealed positions." Cravash's tactical display showed the bigger picture. Over 3 days, they had lost 22 patrols, 4 supply transports, and now a command shuttle, all without deploying a single adult human warrior. "Show me the Academy prisoners again," he ordered. The holographic display shifted to show the Academy staff and non-human cadets being held in detention areas. Most appeared nervous but unharmed. None showed the tactical brilliance or physical capabilities of the human cadets. "Sir," his intelligence officer approached cautiously, "we've completed our analysis of the human communications we've intercepted." And Karavash's patience was wearing thin. "We believe we've been deceived, sir. These aren't ordinary cadets. Our linguistic experts now believe the term training exercise referred to a covert operation. These humans must be an elite infiltration unit, disguised as students." The science officer added, "Their biological readings support this. No untrained species could demonstrate their adaptability and combat efficiency." Cravash stared at the tactical display, where another patrol had just gone silent. His ancestors had built the Vrexian armada into a feared force across 3 galactic arms through strategic cunning, knowing when to advance and when to retreat. "Contact Supreme Commander Verkoreth," he finally ordered. "Request immediate consultation." June could hardly believe what Jin was telling her. They had gathered in their cave headquarters, where Jin had patched into the Vrexian communication network using equipment from the captured shuttle. "They think we're what?" she asked, certain she had misheard. "An elite human special forces unit," Jin repeated, barely containing his laughter. "Apparently they believe the Academy is a cover for a secret military installation, and we're some kind of advanced infiltration team disguised as students." Dai snorted. "If they could see us during physical training, they'd know better." "It gets better," Jin continued. "They're calling an emergency meeting with their Supreme Commander. I think they're considering withdrawal." Before June could respond, their lookout called from the cave entrance, "Multiple ships descending. Looks like they're landing at the Academy." The cadets rushed outside to see three massive Rexian ships lowering toward the Academy's central plaza. Unlike the aggressive posture of the invasion force, these vessels descended slowly, landing lights activated, the universal signal for non-hostile approach. "What's happening?" Hyun wondered. Jin checked his communicator. "You're not going to believe this. They're requesting a formal surrender ceremony. They want to meet with the human commanding officers." June stared at the ships, then at her team, dirty, exhausted cadets with improvised weapons and determined expressions. "Well," she said with a disbelieving laugh, "I guess we should go accept their surrender." As they made their way toward the Academy, June couldn't help wondering how Academy officials would react when they discovered that the mighty Vrexian armada had been defeated not by Earth's military might, but by a handful of students who simply refused to give up. Sunlight streamed through the crystal dome of the Grand Chamber as representatives from 17 galactic species gathered for what media outlets were calling the most significant diplomatic summit in a century. Joan shifted uncomfortably in her formal uniform, still not used to the weight of the medals adorning her chest. Next to her, Dae, Hyun, and Jin looked equally uncomfortable with their newfound fame. "Stop fidgeting," whispered Admiral Park, Earth's senior representative to the Galactic Cooperative. "The Arcturian delegation keeps staring at you." "They've been staring for weeks," June whispered back. "I'm starting to think they believe we'll spontaneously demonstrate combat techniques at any moment." 6 weeks had passed since the cadet incident, as it was now officially called in diplomatic records. 6 weeks since the Supreme Commander of the Vrexian Armada had formally surrendered to what he believed was an elite human special forces unit, only to discover he had been outmaneuvered by Academy students. The chamber quieted as the cooperative Chancellor, a tall, willowy Altarian with iridescent skin, approached the central podium. "We gather today to ratify the Human-Vrexian Peace Accord and to welcome humanity to full cooperative membership," the Chancellor announced, voice echoing through perfect acoustics. "Never before has a species achieved such status so quickly after first contact." June's gaze drifted to the Vrexian delegation. Former Commander Cravash sat rigidly in the diplomatic section, his 4 eyes fixed straight ahead. No longer in military armor, he wore the simple grey robes of a civilian advisor. Their eyes met briefly, and June could have sworn she saw a hint of respect in his alien features. After the ceremony, dignitaries mingled in the reception hall. Exotic foods and drinks from dozens of worlds filled hovering platters carried by service droids. June found herself surrounded by ambassadors eager to discuss human military philosophy. "Is it true that you train your younglings in live fire exercises?" asked a reptilian sect diplomat, scales shimmering with interest. "No, June began. "I heard humans can continue fighting with multiple limbs severed," interrupted a gaseous being contained in a translucent environmental suit. Dae appeared at her side, rescuing her with practiced ease. "Ambassador Giziatk, I believe Admiral Park was looking for you regarding the mineral rights agreement." As the diplomats drifted away, Dae grinned. "The rumors get wilder every day. Yesterday I overheard someone claiming humans can regrow limbs. If we eat enough protein..." "It would be funny if it wasn't affecting galactic politics," June replied. "The Draconis Confederation signed 3 separate defense treaties with Earth last week, and the Mercian cancelled their border expansion program entirely," added Jin, joining them with a plate of what appeared to be living appetizers. "They're saying it's not the right time to risk human attention." Hyun approached, looking serious. "The Security Council wants us in briefing room 3. Cravash has requested to speak with us privately." The briefing room was small by cooperative standards, but elegantly appointed. Cravash waited alone, standing near a viewport that showed the spectacular rings of the cooperative homeworld below. "Thank you for coming," he said as they entered, his translator rendering his clicking speech into smooth standard. "Please sit." The 4 cadets took seats across from the former commander. Up close, June noticed new markings on his facial plates, symbols of civilian status in Vrexian culture. "I wanted to speak with you before returning to Vrex Prime," Cravash began. To explain something important, he activated a holographic display showing a star map. 12 systems illuminated in sequence. "These are the worlds where detailed accounts of your capabilities have spread, he explained. Some reports are factual. Others have grown in the telling. You mean the rumors that we can see in the dark and breathe underwater? Day asked with a raised eyebrow. Kravash's upper eyes blinked, the Vrexian equivalent of amusement. Those are among the more reasonable claims. On the frontier worlds, they say humans can communicate telepathically in battle and predict enemy movements before they occur. That's ridiculous, Hyun said. Is it? Kravash leaned forward. Your species evolved on a world with higher gravity, more extreme weather patterns, and more aggressive predators than 90% of sentient species. You developed technology at an accelerated rate, and when faced with superior forces, untrained human, younglings defeated elite units using improvised weapons. Jin frowned. We just did what anyone would do. No, Kravash said firmly, that is precisely what most species would not do. Most intelligent beings surrender when faced with overwhelming odds. Preservation of life is the logical choice. Sometimes logic isn't enough, June replied quietly. Kravash studied her for a long moment. The Vrexian Armada has conquered 16 species across 8 star systems. None resisted as effectively as you four. None adapted as quickly or fought as creatively. He touched a control, and the hologram shifted to show 3 massive fleet formations retreating from frontier worlds. The Dorlaxian Empire has withdrawn from 3 contested systems, Kravash explained. The Kill Dominion has cancelled its expansion. Campaign. The hegemony of Tarn has requested peace talks for the first time in 50 cycles. Because of us? June asked incredulously. Because of what you represent, Kravash corrected. These empires now believe Earth is populated by warriors so formidable that even their untrained young can defeat elite forces. They fear what would happen if humanity decided to expand aggressively. Later that evening, the 4 friends gathered on an observation deck overlooking the cooperative capital. Sprawling crystal spires and floating gardens stretched to the horizon, illuminated by the light of 3 moons. Do you think it will last? Hyun asked, breaking the comfortable silence. This peace built on a misunderstanding, Jin shrugged. Eventually they'll realize we're just normal humans who got lucky. I'm not so sure, Day replied thoughtfully. Kravash was right about one thing. Most species would have surrendered. We didn't even consider that option. June leaned against the railing, watching a formation of alien ships glide gracefully between towering structures. Maybe that's humanity's real strength. Not that we're physically superior, but that we're too stubborn to recognize when we're outmatched. A chime from Jin's communicator interrupted them. It's the academy. We've been reassigned. Back to classes. Hyun asked hopefully. Jin laughed. Not exactly. We're being appointed as special instructors for a new joint species training program. Apparently every member of the cooperative suddenly wants their military trained in human tactical thinking. Dai groaned. Great. Now we actually have to figure out how we did it. June smiled, watching distant stars appear as the system's sun set behind the planet's rings. Somewhere out there, species that had never heard of Earth before were now telling stories about fearsome human warriors. Empires that had been expanding for centuries were reconsidering their plans because of 4 cadets who refused to give up during a simple training exercise. You know what the strangest part is? She said finally. We really were just applying our training, standard academy procedures. To Commander Elzix's eternal frustration, Hyun added with a laugh. As night fell fully over the cooperative capital, the 4 friends stood together in comfortable silence, watching ships from 100 worlds navigate peacefully through shared skies. A peace accidentally secured by humans who had simply been too stubborn to recognize when they were supposed to lose. The end.